Yeah.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya wal mursaleen, nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, amma ba'du, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Once again, I'd like to apologize for the delay. We plan sometimes, but sometimes the way we plan things don't go. But alhamdulillah, I think there's a blessing in it that we started our day exercising some patience, and maybe for the people that took advantage of the time to look over the hadith that we're going to read with the Sheikh. To proceed, inshallah, as you guys know, Sheikh Muhammad Mufti Munir graduated from Jamia Islamiyah in Medina Munawwara from the College of Hadith, and he also completed his master's there. Inshallah, we're going to be doing the Mukhtasar of Sahih Muslim, and I just leave it for the Sheikh. فليتفضل مشكورا مأجورا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له إقرارا به وتوحيدا وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله كافة للناس بشيرا ونذيرا وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما مزيدا أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Before we get started with what we have for you today, بإذن الله تعالى, the Kitab Al-Zuhd Al-Raqa'iq min Mukhtasar Sahih Muslim للإمام الحافظ Al-Mundhiri rahimahullah, the summarized version of Sahih Muslim, and the chapter on Al-Zuhd and Al-Raqa'iq. Who can refresh us or remind us of that which we studied and that which we took last winter? We took another chapter from another major book of Hadith. Walillahi alhamd, we began, we finished it, we explained it. Perhaps some of the brothers or the sisters that are here today were here last year. Who could remind us, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, what we took last year, last winter? We have a totally fresh crowd.
The Book of Knowledge from Sunan Abi Dawud.
Kitab al-Ilm from Sunan Abi Dawud. Last winter we studied, walillahi alhamd, the Book of Knowledge from the Sunan of Imam Abi Dawud as-Sijistani rahimahullah. Not the summarized version, but the actual Musnad chapter, walillahi alhamd. And we took several ahadith with regards to seeking knowledge. How to seek knowledge, the virtues, the do's, the don'ts, the etiquettes, the adab, etc. And this is, walillahi alhamd, one of the main themes of hadith disciple. One of the main themes, not the main theme, not the only main theme, but one of the main themes is how to revive the spirit of seeking ilm, and also to take knowledge and its search to the next level, professionally, systematically seeking ilm. The general lectures, the general talks, the general books, alhamdulillah, are good. They're useful. But we need things that are finely tuned with regards to how do you actually become a talib al-ilm. I go to the lecture, I go to the class, I sit overseas, I sit in a halaqah. Is there more to it? Is it deeper? Anything that pertains to servicing knowledge and making it easy for those in Canada, in America, who aspire to go overseas, learn and study and actually be tulab al-ilm, actually being an alim, a sheikh, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only Allah knows how many emails we get on a daily basis from all continents. I want to study, I want to learn, what's your advice? I want to go overseas, I want to study, what's your advice? My father doesn't want me to go overseas. My mother doesn't want me to go overseas. I want to get married and go overseas. I go to college, I study biology, but I still want to study ilm. And so on and so on and so on and so on and so forth. So therefore, due to the fact that we get so many emails, so many questions, so many concerns, we feel that it's only right to teach and to show, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, our brothers and sisters, how to really actually seek ilm, what you should and what you shouldn't do. And to remind ourselves, first and foremost, and remind you of the virtues and the superiority, the merits of seeking knowledge in times of fitan, in which many people turn away from the deen, in which many people turn away from the true spirit of the people of hadith, which was to travel, to study, and to stay busy. Maqil ibn Yasar radiallahu anhu narrated that the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, he said in the famous hadith, Al-ibadatu fil harji ka hijratin ilayya. The hadith is in Sahih Muslim, that the Prophet ﷺ said, performing ibadah, worshipping Allah in times of harj is equal, is similar, is equivalent to making hijrah to me. Harj, as we know in the other narrations, the Prophet ﷺ himself explained it as murder. And others, they say that harj is actually an Ethiopian word, a term that the Prophet ﷺ spoke other than Arabic, and it meant major turmoil, major chaos, killing, murder, rape, plunder, many of the things that you see on the TV today. So when people are busy with this and with that, politics, Christmas, Islamophobia, Muslims and non-Muslims, talking about all of these different issues, who is actually going back to this hadith, ibadah. And it lies no doubt from the best ibadah, from the greatest ibadah, the foundation of ibadah is ilm, is knowledge. It's worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon that which is correct. So this is what we try to do. Try to revive this spirit. Everybody understand this? Bismillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the book that we took last year, Kitab from Sunan Abi Dawud. This year, we wanted to continue that process and take something even more specific, and that is dealing with the heart, dealing with the pleasures of the worldly life, and how it is related to seeking knowledge. How it is what? Related to seeking knowledge. And the more you have a better, clearer understanding of this, the easier it is and the more successful it will be for you to seek knowledge and for you to learn and take it to the next level. When you understand these two words, Zuhd and Al-Raqa'iq, which we're going to get into what they actually mean and what they actually don't mean. Bi-idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khairan inshallah. So therefore, that's what we took last year. How many hadiths did we study last year, Simon? In the chapter?
30, 40.
Over 30 or 40 hadith in a couple of days. That's a lot of hadiths directly from Sunan. Not from 40 hadith Nawawi, that's directly hadathana wa akhbarana. What else? Anybody was here last year? No one else was here last year? Did anybody watch the videos, listen to what we did? No one? Khairan inshallah. Alright, let's get started with today's topic, bi-idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. First and foremost is the importance of the topic. Ahamiyatul mawdu'. The importance of this topic for every single Muslim, student and layman, but specifically to the tulab al-ilm. Number two is sabab ikhtiyari lahu. Why did I pick this topic? Of all the things to speak about what's going on in the world today, or just about talab al-ilm, why did I choose this? The next point, bi-idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we're going to discuss is بعض التصورات والمفاهيم الخاطئة لهذا الموضوع. Some misunderstandings and misconceptions when it comes to this topic, when it comes to zuhd. What many people, if not most people, say and feel and think about the term zuhd and what it means, and its depths and its dimensions. And that leads them to all sorts of problems in talab al-ilm, in dawah, and everyday 9-to-5 life, especially in Western countries. What is zuhd? What is meant by zuhd? What is the level that every Muslim should or shouldn't have when it comes to zuhd? And also when we say Al-Raqa'iq, things that soften your heart, things that melt your heart, things that cause piety to the heart. What should we do? How should we try to soften our hearts and melt our hearts? Is it even possible for us to do that? Everybody understand this? So some misconceptions when it comes to these terms, and this is crucial. The next point of discussion bi-idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala is, as it was mentioned yesterday, that from the Prophet ﷺ's methodology, is that when he saw the Sahaba doing something wrong, when he heard them saying something wrong, when he knew that they believed something that was wrong, he wouldn't just stop them, he wouldn't just correct them, but he would also give them not just al-badil, as Sheikh Abu Osama mentioned in khutbah, not just badil, but al-badil al-salih. Okay, a suitable replacement, a suitable substitution, and not just a replacement and a substitution. There's a big difference between the two. I can give you a substitute, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's suitable. So therefore, when we say that people misunderstand these words, zuhd and raqa'iq, we can't just leave them like that. Now we have to actually tell you what's meant by zuhd. What are the levels of zuhd? What are the levels of raqa'iq? How to soften the heart, how to melt the heart when it comes to seeking knowledge, and also for the layman and for the laywoman. Everybody understand this? It's insufficient to just refute and to crush and to shred and to crumble, but now you have to build back up. It's easy to take the sledgehammer against the wall. That doesn't take a lot of skill. Just a bit of brute strength, a bit of endurance. But the actual stonemason, the brick mason, how to place the brick, how to layer the bricks, how much space between the brick and the mortar, so on and so forth, that takes a great deal of what? Skill and patience. And this is crucially important in Al-Islam. When the Prophet heard the Sahaba swearing by other than Allah, swearing by this one and that one, their fathers, this idol, this taghut, whatever the case may be, he told them, do not swear by your forefathers, do not swear by the taghut, do not swear by Lat and Uzza, so on and so forth. He said, swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he heard them saying things in their prayers, Assalamu ala Allah, they send salutations to Allah. He said, don't say that. And he didn't just stop, but he gave them a badil salih, something to say in the tashahhud. And the examples of this are countless. Moving forward is relative terms. Al-alfadhu dhatu sila. We want to speak on some of the kalimats, some of the synonyms, and also some of the terms that are relative to the topic of zuhd and raqa'iq. Things that you may hear in a lecture, things that you may read in a book. You may read Sahih Bukhari, you may read Sunan Abi Dawud, you may read another work, and it's the same exact concept, but with a different term. And you might become confused and think that it's something else, but it really isn't. Moving forward. Bi-idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, we wish to give you some fa'idah from the speech of one of the greatest scholars of Al-Islam, Al-Hafidh Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, regarding zuhd. What is zuhd? Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So let's get started. This is just a few things that we're going to talk about. First and foremost, why is the topic important? Why is the topic important, and why did I pick it? Why did I choose it? The first reason why the topic is important is that it's mentioned in the Quran. And if it was mentioned just once, it would be important. Let alone if it's mentioned from Surah Al-Fatiha to Surah Al-Nas. Allah speaks about this world, and He speaks about its reality, and its similitude and its likeliness. Allah says in several ayat, وَضْرِبَ لَهُمْ, make an example for them, O Muhammad. The Sahaba, teach them and tell them what the reality of this life is like, and how it is. وَمَا, Allah says in the worldly life is nothing but mata'ul ghurur. It is enjoyment and deception. So therefore, due to the fact that the concept of zuhd is mentioned in the Quran in countless ayat, whenever Allah talks about the hereafter, Malik Yawmiddin, He's speaking on zuhd, because He's telling us about a day that hasn't come yet, a day that is relatively to me and to you far-fetched, but Allah, He talks about it in abundance. In other words, preparing you for that day, getting ready for that day. And if you're preparing for the worldly life and getting ready for the worldly life, then that is the concept of zuhd. Eating, clothes, drink, food, money, seeking ilm, so on and so forth. Because all of those things preoccupy you from preparation for death, and for preparation for that day in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mulk, His dominion, will be clear to everyone. That's why Allah says, Malik Yawmiddin. Allah is the owner, He's the possessor, He's the king of all days, of all times, of all places. But He says that for a reason. Everybody understand this? So this concept of zuhd, let alone the concept of melting the heart, softening the heart, is mentioned in the Quran in abundance. Why does Allah tell us about Surah Yusuf? He speaks about Yusuf alayhi salam in that chapter. From the beginning of the surah to the end of the surah, it's something that softens your heart. Yusuf, he went to jail. How Allah taught him to interpret dreams. His brother's jealousy and envy. His father, his sadness, his blindness, so on and so forth. How shaitan caused them to conspire against him, and how Allah brought them back together at the end of the surah. that deals with softening the heart. Deals with what? Softening the heart. Allah talks about the believers and how they were tortured. وَمَا نَقَمُوا مِنْهُمْ إِلَّا أَن يُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَمِيدِ Surah Al-Buruj. How they put them in the fire. They want to burn them alive. That's something that should soften the heart and melt the heart. They were believers who came before us, who didn't have the comfort, the luxury, the technology to practice Islam and to be comfortable. They were tortured, they were persecuted, they were murdered, they were killed for no sin except for saying La ilaha illallah. Everybody understand this? Let alone the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's a whole different dimension about Zuhd and Al-Raqa'iq. So therefore, this is the first reason why I chose the topic and why it's so important is because it's mentioned in the Quran. And everything in the Quran and Kareem is important. That which is mentioned twice, that which is mentioned 3 times, that which is mentioned in countless places, obviously is going to take more importance. Everybody understand this? It's going to take what? More importance. So this is one of the reasons why it is so important. Number 2 is, Zuhd and Raqa'iq are considered to be a major pathway, a gateway to successful studies. And not practicing Zuhd, or having the incorrect understanding of it, and not having a soft, melted heart, is considered a major gateway to failure in your studies. Let alone da'wah, let alone teaching. I went to Medina, I went to Yemen, I went to Egypt, I studied, now I came back to Canada. I'm an imam, I'm the sheikh of this markaz, I'm the mustafid here. How am I going to behave and deal with myself and with the people when it comes to money, position, power, authority, marriage? When I see my colleagues surpassing me, going beyond me, am I going to talk about him? Am I going to warn from him? Am I going to envy him? He has more, he has better, bigger, better. These are real life problems that we live with. And those of you who have been Muslim for many years, studying many years, whether you're a revert or not, you've been trying to follow the sunnah, the way of the people of hadith, you've seen the different roller coasters over the last 10, 15, 20 years. The benefit that this one brought, then he was destroyed. He was discarded. The non-Muslims who accepted Islam, the young youth that came and rushed inside of the masjid, and then he was warned from. Everybody understand this? A big reason behind all of this is not having a proper understanding and practice of these 2 concepts. The dunya, and how it can change a person. The dunya, and the lust for its pleasures, and how it can have an effect upon the warner and the one who's being warned from. I warn from you for no other reason except for dunya. I warn from you because you're making mistakes, you're making errors, you're misleading the people. When you first came back from Yemen, it was Kitab, Sunnah, and Ijma'. It was beneficial knowledge. But when the money was handed to you, the power, the authority, the women, things changed. Your dawah changed. You start to call people to other things. And that's how you're going to stray. And you let other people astray. Everybody understand this? And there are countless examples of this. So there's another reason why this topic is so important. It is considered a major reason behind you being successful in your studies. When the Prophet ﷺ city, only Allah knows how many people we saw come and go. Without any exaggeration. Brothers from Canada, brothers from the UK, brothers from America. Only Allah knows how many faces we saw come and go. The first time I went to Medina, the first time I was in the College of Hadith, how many students, how many classmates, how many brothers, studying. And as the days went off, they just dropped, let alone in Yemen. Brothers come gung-ho. I'm going to study. I'm going to sit with Sheikh Fulan. You see him next week. His face is pale, lost 20, 30 pounds, sick, thrown up. I have to go back to America. I can't survive. It's too difficult. It's too hard. It's too harsh. Wallahi, true stories. Why do these brothers not remain consistent? Why do they quit? Why do they drop out? Why do they go home? Perhaps we say they were not understanding and they were not practicing these concepts, especially the concept of Zuhd, the worldly life, sacrificing and giving up. Brothers that come every day in my masjid in New York City, Mufti, write me a letter of recommendation. Please write me a letter of recommendation. I want to go to the Jamia. I want to go to study. I want to go study. And I asked them, what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to stop doing this, to leave this off, to go here? Oh, no, but, khalas. If you're not, I can't write anything for you. Everybody understand this? So practicing Zuhd, practicing these concepts of melting the heart, softening the heart, looking at the worldly life is a major reason behind success in your studies. And not doing it is also a major reason behind failure in your studies. A third reason why I chose to deal with this is This is one of the major subgenres of a hadith book. A hadith book, especially the class of books which are called jawami', they have main categories, such as what? What's the main theme, Idris, of a jami' type of book, like Sahih al-Bukhari, for example? A main theme. Something you're going to find in Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Abi Dawud, Al-Raqa'iq, creed. It's going to be creed. And Sahih Muslim, Jami' Tirmidhi, Sunan Ibn Majah, this is going to be a separate chapter on Aqa'id. Whether you call it Iman, whether you call it Tawheed, whatever you call it, it's going to be something on what you believe in. And what some Muslims and some people who left Islam, what they started believing in, and how they strayed from the original organic way of the Sahaba. Tayyib, Ahsanta. What else? Number 2. Revelation. La. Adab and suluk. Character. Etiquette. Manners. If you look in the 6 books of Hadith, the 6 mother books, just as an example, how often are you going to find a chapter on what? Adab. Everybody understand this? Tayyib. That's 2. Anyone else? It's a very easy question. You're just thinking too hard. Just think about what you're going to keep finding in all of these books. We mentioned 2. Creed, and we mentioned character. What else? Al-Ibadat, yani al-Ahkam. 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 Everybody understand this? Rulings. Halal and haram. Mandatory, recommended, disliked, and Ahkam. Al-Ahkam. Everybody understand this? Hajj. It's going to be Kitab al-Hajj. It's going to be buying and selling. Marriage and divorce. It's going to be rulings on inheritance. It's going to be rulings on suckling. Naam. Al-Ahkam. That's 3. Number 4. Niyya. La. That's too specific. Tahara is included in Ahkam. That's a ruling. When you stand to the salat, do something. When you use the bathroom, do something. Naam. Matters of the hereafter. That's included in Aqa'id, and it's included in something else too. You got to fine tune it. It's getting close. What else? Kitab al-Ilm. Ahsant. The chapter of seeking knowledge. How many is that? 4. Tfadal. Staying away from shaitan. Tayyib. That's a bit too specific. Kitab al-Fitan. Qul al-Fitan wal-Malahim. Al-Fitan wal-Malahim wa ashrat al-Sa'a. Ahsant. The book of prophecies, apocalypse, turmoil, strife, things that will take place in hereafter, in this life, fitan, specifically in this life. How many is that? 5. Tayyib. Fadl Samir. Al-Manaqib, the book of virtues. Virtues of the Sahaba, virtues of the Anbiya, of the Rusul. Specific Sahaba. Tayyib. That's 6. Battles. As-Siyar. Qul as-Siyar. The Tulab al-Ilm, not only do you have to know the information, but you have to make sure that your tongue is what? Sharp. Kitab al-Siyar is the book of the expeditions. The expeditions of the Prophet ﷺ, regardless whether there's a battle or not. Everybody understand this? Because there are many ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ in which there was no battle, there was no fighting. There's no fighting. Everybody understand this? But it's in the books of what? Siyar. As-Siyar wal-Ghazawat. Tayyib. Whether it's called Al-Jihad, As-Siyar, etc. Tayyib. That's how many now? 6. There's a few more we're missing out on. Fadl. Al-Raqa'iq. Heart-softening narrations. That was so easy. That's 7. Tayyib. Give it a shot. Bismillah. Yalla. Anybody else? Come on, give it a shot, Akhi. When in doubt, speak in the halaqah. If you think about something, say it. It may be right. Tayyib. La. Zuhd is Al-Raqa'iq. It's going to be interchangeable. Tayyib. It's something else very important that we're missing out on. Ruqya, at-tib. Medicine. Very good. We call that what? Kitab al-Tib. Abwab al-Tib. Everybody understand this? Medicine, spells, incantations. Fadl Yusuf. Sir. Huh? Asira. That's included. No, we didn't mention sira. We said asir. There's a farq. Asir and sira, two different things. Asira is going to be included in sir. The Prophet ﷺ sira in most cases is going to be mentioned with the battles and the expeditions, etc. Tayyib. Something else. Keep thinking, Yusuf. Huh? Nobody else. Fadl. Why we keep raising our left hand? Everybody raise their left hand. We taught this last year, huh, Simon? Always raise your what? You mean? Tayyib. Fadl. La. Nah, it's a good guess, but no. Everybody think about something. معاملات هذا داخل في الأحكام. أحكام. أيوة, rulings. What about at-ta'bir, dream interpretation? Kitab al-ta'bir. Everybody understand is what? Dream interpretation. All of the major books of Hadith, or most of them, have a specific chapter on what? On dream interpretation. Is a major part of the Sunnah. Everybody understand this? On at-ta'bir. Everybody got this? Dream interpretation. Tirmidhi, Bukhari, you're going to find it. And that's because everybody eventually has to do what? Sleep. Whether little or lot. 30 minutes, hour, 8 hours, 10 hours. If you hibernate, al-muhim, there's some type of sleep that you're going to make. And sleep is considered a major stage in your life. And it's a major concept of iman. Because it's a type of death. But that's a whole long discussion. And we have classes on that as well. Anything else? Kitab al-Tafsir. Jayid. Anything else? Anybody else? Akhlaq. We mentioned that. Adab, suluk. Anything else? Fadl. Al-Hadith. That's we're discussing the Hadith. Anything else before we move forward, Ikhwan? Anything else? Anybody else? Khair inshallah. Let's move forward. Jazakumullah khairan. Everybody did very good. So these are some of the reasons why I chose to pick this topic. Because it helps the student of knowledge. For obvious reasons, it's going to help the average 9 to 5 Muslim. Everybody understand this? But the point is that when you seek ilm and you don't look at the dunya in a certain way, let alone deal with it in a certain way, it's going to have a major impact and influence on your knowledge, on your teaching, and on your da'wah. For the positive or for the negative. Everybody understand this? For the positive or the negative. Not saying that all money is bad and all fame is bad and all for not saying that. We said it's going to have a positive or what? Or a negative. One of the two. Everybody understand this? And you can think of examples I said, how many people what? Were lost. Just because of what? The dunya, unfortunately. For one reason or another. Khairan inshallah. Tayyib. Moving forward. Let's talk about some of the misunderstandings of zuhd. Who can tell me a definition of zuhd or what zuhd is? What does zuhd mean? Someone is a zahid. It said fulan's a zahid. We must have zuhd in the dunya. The salaf was zuhad. What's meant by the word zuhd? Abstaining from the dunya. To abstain. To leave off. Khairan inshallah. Anybody else? Balance. Anybody else? Floor is open. Give it another shot too. Anybody else? Fadl. A synthesis. What does that mean? Are you speaking English or? Clear. Tayyib. Anybody else? Too late. He raised his left hand. Subhanallah. Anybody else? What does word zuhd mean, Nafis? Zuhd. To have zuhd. He mentioned that already. He told us that. Fadl.
From my Sufi days, one example that we used to mention was, for instance, if you're in the shade, you don't want to be in the sun. If you're in the sun, you don't want to be in the shade.
Right.
Be content, whatever your situation is.
Being content. A person being what? Content. Right. It's very important. Now you mentioned two very serious words. Abstaining and being content. We're going to get to that, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Not saying that they're good or bad. طيب, anybody else? Give it another shot, akhi. Yes, you, Sheikh. This is important. Yalla, bismillah. What's meant by this word zuhd? Or he mentioned something very important. Not so much of the word, but the concept. Tasawwur. The what? The perception of zuhd. And not just the translation of the word. Fadl.
Leaving the unnecessary stuff of the world.
Leaving off things that are unnecessary. Pay close attention to these words. Unnecessary. Tayyib. Fadl.
To use this dunya as a bridge to go to akhirah and then take
Allahu Akbar. To use the dunya. Not to abstain from it, but to use it, to utilize it, to put it into practice. Make this dunya work for you, but not just for the dunya, but as a bridge to thereafter. Tayyib. Fadl.
To do is obligatory and recommended, to abstain from what is haram and disliked, and doubtful matters.
Tayyib. To do that which is obligatory, do that which is recommended, avoid that which is haram, avoid that which is disliked, and that which is doubtful. Tayyib. Anybody else? Anybody else? Patience, sabr. Tayyib. Anybody else? Fadl.
to not be possessed by the dunya.
To not be possessed. Allahu Akbar. It's a strong word. Possessed by the dunya. Tayyib. Anybody else? Anybody else? No one else? I want to hear from you, akhi. Yes, you.
I would say discriminate the good and the bad.
To make a difference between that which is good and that which is bad. And then what? Okay, now we mentioned some things that we think and what we feel and believe are correct. Now I want bi'idhnillahi ta'ala some volunteers of that which is wrong when it comes to the concept of zuhd, according to what you know or what you think. Something that's a misconception and why it's harmful. Fadl. To wear raggedy clothes, to look dirty and beat down, scrubby, scruffy. That's zuhd to some people that you feel is wrong. Right?
It's sort of, well, we come from Pakistan, so there's like, when you say, you sort of say like, as if when you become too religious, you build 4 walls around you and stay within them, and that's it.
That you totally disorientate yourself and alienate yourself from the people when you become religious. So that's tayyib. Khair inshallah. Anybody else? Fadl akhi.
Being strict on yourself.
Being strict. Being strict or being overly strict? Is strict a bad thing? Overly strict. Tayyib. Anybody else? Yalla akhi. You're thinking. I'm looking at your eyes. You're thinking. Your brain is moving. Fadl Sheikh.
To leave what's halal for you and
To leave off the halal.
and later on to fall into haram.
And then because of over strictness or extremism or etc., you end up falling into something worse. Tayyib. Anybody else? A misconception of the concept of zuhd. Don't talk to anybody. Don't be cordial. Don't be friendly. You can't hold the door for a non-Muslim anything. Even your Muslim brother. Tayyib. Fadl akhi.
Dislike other religions.
I'm sorry?
Dislike other religions.
Dislike other religions. Tayyib. Fadl.
To respect only the Muslims and disrespect the kuffar.
Disrespect the kuffar and only respect the Muslims. Tayyib. Anybody else? Fadl. Ruhbaniyya. What language is that, ya akhi? That's Arabic word, ruhbaniyya? That's Arabic word? It is. What does that mean in Arabic?
You act up like basically forget about your dunya.
To forget about the dunya.
That's نصيبك من الدنيا.
Tayyib. Is that an Arabic word? Huh? كلمة عربية هذه؟ طيب في القرآن فيلزم يكون عربي؟ لازم يكون عربي؟
الله أعلم.
نعم أم لا؟ Is every word in the Quran Arabic, Samir? Every word. طيب خير إن شاء الله. Very interesting. طيب خير إن شاء الله. Any other concepts before we move any further? Rahbaniyya. What does Rahbaniyya mean? Or what do you understand from it?
Is what the Christian is to do, like they just abandon everyone and just build like a small,
Monastic lifestyle.
yeah, and just cut off everyone, all the pleasure of the dunya, not marrying,
Nothing.
no contact with human, minimum human.
Try. Khayr inshallah. Anybody else before we move forward?
Not getting married.
To do more than what the Prophet did with regards to ibadat, acts of worship. Tayyib. Fadl Nafis.
Not getting married.
Not getting married. Tayyib. Connected to what he mentioned. Anything else?
Not taking care of your family.
Not taking care of your family. Fadl.
Being harsh?
Being harsh. Being harsh is a bad thing?
I mean, like,
It's really hard.
you're harsh when it's overly harsh when.
Khayr inshallah. Tayyib. Now, let's move forward. That's enough on Zuhd. When we talk about heart softening narrations, Al-Raqa'iq, and some chapters say Riqaq, what are some of the misconceptions with regards to this term and this concept?
Despairing from the mercy of Allah.
Despairing from the mercy of Allah. Tayyib. Can I give one? Can I volunteer one? Talking about softening the heart and melting the heart based off of fabricated hadiths. Totally weak and bogus hadiths. Hadiths that seem so interesting, so mind-boggling, spine-tingling, that are just so amazing that they just grab you. And that the sinner is going to stop being a sinner instantly when he hears this stupendous hadith about Allah's maghfirah, about Jahannam, this snake, this valley, this punishment in the grave, this one died, so on and so forth. Everybody understand this? It's to mention fabricated ahadith. Extremely weak ahadith with regards to softening the people's hearts. Everybody understand this? Making up statements of the Prophet ﷺ with the intention of getting people's hearts to be tender. We can agree on this or not. Is widespread in Pakistan, other countries? Widespread or not? Very widespread. People do it intentionally and also what? Unintentionally. Everybody clear on this? Al-Wa'th. When we start talking about exhorting people, admonishing people, giving the people a reminder, what the Prophet ﷺ said in his few simple basic words isn't enough. Everybody understands we have to do more now. Khayr inshallah. So that's my contribution. Now it's time to hear from you once again. Bidnillah. Anybody else? Heart softening. How to soften one's heart. In the back. You give good answers, Akhi. Can't stop now. Yes. What's your name? Khalid. Ayakallah Khalid. Fadl.
To do what the extreme Sufis and the Khurafat believe in.
Extreme Sufis and Turuqat. Okay, such as?
Such as you have to have a chef that's connected
That your heart cannot become soft unless it's connected to another man. Okay, only Sufis do this? Only extreme Sufis? Only those two groups, the Shia and the extreme Sufi. Nobody else has this concept. You can't become guided unless you're attached to a specific man. Among the Muslims. So Fadl, what do you think, Simon?
Yeah, I think some.
طيب خير تفضل يا أخي.
Maybe some people who do taqleeds over on the madhab, that they believe that only through a madhab you can have.
The only way you can practice fiqh and study correctly and worship Allah correctly is through a madhab.
Is that softening or hardening?
Is this considered from softening the heart?
It's really hardening because it says only this matter is correct. If you read the Quran on them or the Hadith, they say no.
So maybe it does have a connection to softening the heart. Someone having a hard heart. Right, anybody else? Your right hand. Bismillah.
Going to other means than the sunnah to soften your heart.
Going to other means of the sunnah to soften the heart. Things that the Prophet didn't do, didn't suggest, didn't allow, but it's going to soften my heart. Looking for the guidance, softening the heart in other than Muhammad's way, such as music.
Some of them they say meditation.
Meditation. Tahir. Khair, inshallah. Anybody else? Drugs. Soften one's heart. Take me to an elevated state. A trance. Tahir. Many people are laughing, but the reality of drugs is based off of this. Drugs weren't necessarily considered drugs. They were considered a thing just to get high. It was a spiritual practice. That's a long, long, long discussion. Tahir. تفضل يا أخي. نعم هسي تفضل. Yeah, say something. Bismillah.
I'll come back to you.
All right, inshallah. I'll come back to you. تفضل يا أخي.
Using other methods and saying that it was from the sunnah to soften the heart.
Other methods, not from the sunnah. طيب, anybody else? تفضل سامر.
I think a misconception or a mistake is to excessively only focus on softening the heart.
It's to only focus on this topic. The only thing that is the thing about our dawah is the heart. That's it. Zuhd, Raqa'iq. Heart softening, divorcing the dunya. That's Islam. That's the dawah. That's what we teach. That's what we learn. That's what we study. Right? Okay. How about I give another one? Another act of extremism that counters this extremism. And it's very important when you read the history of Islam. How do we get all of these different groups and these different schisms and sects and parties? Because of counter extremism. They went far right, so another group said, well, let's go far left. So therefore, because these people, these Muslims, the only thing they do is talk about the heart, softening the heart, zuhd from the dunya, we're never ever going to talk about it. We're not going to mention it, we're not going to speak on it, it's not a part of the sunnah of hadith, the way of the salaf salih, mutlaqan. And those who do talk about it, as you said, are extreme Sufis, Turuq, and Shia. Everybody understand this? This is a reality. This is a reality. This is a misconception of the concept of softening the heart, that it isn't important at all. And if you do talk about softening the heart, then you're automatically, as you said, an extreme Sufi or Shi'i. طيب. Anybody else? I gave two. That's too many answers. I'm not supposed to give no answers this time. I'm benefiting from you today. Fadl ya akhi. Naam. Bismillah. I see you were saying something. Yalla. Yeah. Naam.
I was talking about poetry because when you look at Islamic poetry, right, in the Middle Umayyad period, the poetry at that time was focused on dunya. So there's another group that came out and they started to make poetry about the Zuhd,
Counter extremism.
the counter extremism. For example, the Aqa'id, Kadari, Qadariyya, and then Qadariyya, and then Jabariyya came. So
طيب. خير. طيب. Okay.
And
Fadl Sheikh.
to add this point, nowadays there are so many so-called Islamic songs and so on. And I remember even when I was in college, I used to hate the music and all this and get out from the class. And then one of the classmates says that we actually have a song that say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And we use that in the books. But the beginning, the people who made that were Muslim. But the people who were using in the bars and all these are non-Muslim.
طيب.
So the reason why they actually do want to offer an alternative, but they actually, it went far. And these days there are so many so-called Muslim things
طيب.
they do, and you see that when even they come some of the the conference, and they actually doing this and hooking the children and youngsters and
Allah musta'an.
It's good.
Khairin inshallah. Alright. Anything else before we go forward? Fadl.
putting the Rakat before Aqid.
Putting, softening the heart before the aqidah. So are they different? Do they go against each other? Aqidah and Raqa'iq, are they two different things or are they supposed to be one thing? Right, okay. Sometimes they're different. So Aqidah doesn't soften the heart.
You know, sometimes some of them they believe that Aqid is dry words.
It hardens the heart. They say if it hardens it. Right. I ain't saying you're wrong or right. I just want to ask questions. Right. Right. Fadl.
Sometimes, because people say that let's not talk about the punishments and like, you know, because in the Quran we have a lot of stuff like, you know, side by side. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he talks about the believers and non-believers. But we have a sect that they just say, okay, let's just talk to the side of the, what do you call this, the rewards and all those. So let's not talk about the
Right.
punishment.
Khair. Fadl.
Becoming irresponsible in the name of worship.
Becoming irresponsible in the worldly life in the name of worship. I'm irresponsible in the dunya. I don't take care of the necessary things because I'm worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. Anything else? These are all good answers in general. Fadl.
It's one
طيب. Anybody else before we go forward? Bismillah. Now let's mention some things. Bismillah. Jazakumullah khairan to all of the brothers. I don't know if the sisters had participated online or wrote things down. They can if they wish to. Bismillah. It's not just for the brothers. When you're reading the books of Hadith, the books of Aqa'id as well, reading the books of seeking ilm, especially the books of Hadith, you're going to find other words and other terms. If they're not synonymous, they have a direct connection to Zuhd and Raqa'iq. And they are as follows. Number one, Al-Wara. Al-Wara. Waw Ra Ain. This is a word that you're going to find so often when you read the biographies of the Imams of Hadith, the Imams of the Salaf al-Salih. Wara. Kana wari'an. Kana kada kada. Fulan dhu wara, etc. Number two, Sifatul Qiyamah, the description of the day of resurrection. Number three, Sifatul Jannah, the description of paradise. Number four, Sifatul Nar, or Sifatul Jahannam. Moving forward, a word that's not mentioned too often in the books of Hadith, but it's something that is directly connected, at-tazkiyah, or tazkiyah to nafs, purification of the soul. Moving forward, at-tasawwuf, Sufism, as-Sufiyya. Not saying anything about the group Sufis, but the word, the term. You're going to find this often when you start talking about this, whether it's in books of Hadith or books that came later on. Moving forward is Al-Israf. Al-Israf. Whether it means extravagance, whether it means being a spendthrift. At-Tabdhir. And most importantly, in English we say what? Spirituality. Spirituality. Very important word that is directly connected to this topic. Spirituality. And it's a big, major doubt in the modern 21st century when it comes to Islam. I don't have to be a Muslim, someone says. I don't have to believe in Allah alone, but as long as I'm spiritual. As long as I'm what? Spiritual. As long as I'm a good person, I believe in some type of way, some type of religion, some type of divine being. Everybody understand this? It's directly connected. Because the concept of the dunya and the concept of the hereafter and the concept of God, obedience, worshiping God, obeying God, deities, they're all what? They go hand in what? They go hand in hand. And the moment we start splitting them up, that's when we normally what? Crash. We normally what? We normally begin to crash. Everybody understand this? Right, moving forward. I want to give you some things, bi'idhnillah, with regards to misconceptions of Zuhd and Raqa'iq. Number one, and perhaps this is one of the most dangerous, is that this field of study, or this topic, is not from the way of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. It's not from the way of Ahlul Hadith, from the way of the Salaf al-Salih, to talk about Zuhd and Raqa'iq. This is from the way of the Sufiyya, or the Shia, or the Turuqat. Not specifically dealing with you, Khalid. I wrote this down before I heard your answer. Everybody understand this? Many people, they think this. And some people actually say it. If you say the word tazkiyah to nafs, you're automatically Sufi. There are other types of extremism as well. Some brothers, they say in the UK, if you talk about seerah and the Prophet ﷺ seerah, then you're a jihadi. If you talk about ta'awun and brothers need to work together, they say you're ikhwani. And this is a musibah for obvious reasons. Moving forward, number two. The next concept of a misconception is that there's no good in the dunya, period. Ad-dunya mal'una. Wa mal'unun man fiha. The world is cursed. And everything in the worldly life is cursed. There's no good in being involved in anything from the worldly life, period. Everybody understand this? Any type of leadership, position of power and influence is bad, is negative. Whether it's the imam of a masjid, whether it's a qadi, an Islamic judge, whether it's a president, a ruler, politics, all of it is negative and bad, derogatory. There's no good in it. Number three, What many people think zuhd is, or a reason behind softening the heart is, not to mix with the people at all. Do not mix with them. Whether it's obligatory to mix with them, recommended to mix with them, or just permissible to mix with them. Rather, it may be a time in which it's disliked to mix with the people. And someone says that it's zuhd, not to mix with them. It's haram, and it's only makruh. Moving forward, number 4. And this is very scary and very hidden. For me to seek knowledge for worldly purposes. Learn for worldly gain. Now obviously you're thinking negatively. Someone doesn't have ikhlas. Someone wishes to be famous, wishes to be rich, so on and so forth. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. In other words, a brother, he writes an email and says, I want to seek knowledge, but how can I make a living? My parents ask me, what do you want to do when you come back from overseas? How are you going to eat? How are you going to take care of yourself? So many people, they have the intention from day one, I'm seeking knowledge, and I'm going to please my parents by having this Islamic degree, by studying overseas, and I'm going to automatically work and do this and do that. So it's not seeking knowledge for the extravagance and for luxury. Okay, when we say worldly gain means something that isn't spiritual, it's worldly, whether it's good or bad. So many people, they have the misconception that I'm going to seek knowledge to make a living. I'm going to learn and study overseas. I'm going to graduate from Medina with the intention of making a living and this being my job. And it's a huge error. It's a major mistake that many people, they fall into. And just a few people pay attention to it. What are you going to do when you finish studies? First of all, I'm not seeking ilm for money. I'm not seeking knowledge for worldly gain. That which will come of occupation, me being the imam, a teacher, a scholar, a judge, so on and so forth, that's going to come later on. Me seeking ilm is ibadah. And the moment I lose focus that it is ibadah, I'm lost. I'm what? I'm lost. I'm going to make a hajj for ibadah. If I sell something, if I have a hajj group, if I make some money, that's secondary. That's totally a sideshow, a footnote. Has nothing to do with my niyyah from day one. Everybody understand this? Many people, they say jihad. We're going to take the kuffar as our slaves, their women as our concubines. We're going to cast them into the sea. And we're going to do this and take this land and take that land. Your niyyah is already messed up. Jihad has a specific niyyah. I'la kalimatillah. To make the statement of Allah, la ilaha, the highest in the land. That's number 1. Anything else that enters it, your niyyah is already affected. Everybody understand this? So many people, they seek ilm with the intention of making a living. Now, we didn't get into seeking knowledge for getting a lot of money, an abundance of wealth. Everybody understand this? For ego, for women, for power, for controlling people. That's totally different. That's even worse. Everybody understand this or not? You got this? There's a huge difference between the two. You got this?
Explain a little bit more about this.
Tight. I'm seeking knowledge because I'm going to be an imam when I graduate. And when I'm the imam of the masjid, that's going to be my occupation. I get a normal stipend. Okay, this is my salary. These are the benefits of the job. And my parents are pleased. Because I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be an engineer. I didn't want to go to school to be an athlete and make money like that. This was the only way they were going to allow me to seek ilm. So before my father and mother told me to go overseas to seek knowledge, I told them that I'm going to seek knowledge and I'm going to make a living as a scholar. I'm not seeking knowledge so I can have 10 wives. I'm not seeking knowledge so I can have $1 million. I'm not saying I'm going to seek knowledge so I can control people. None of those things. But I'm seeking knowledge for other than the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Me making a living, being an imam, having a job is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It's not a haram thing. But my intention is improper from the first day. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this? So this is a misconception when it comes to Zuhd and Raqa'iq. One side goes totally extreme. And the other person, he takes the ibadah, the worship, to the next extreme. You got it now? Moving forward, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We said a weak ahadith, fabricated ahadith with regards to softening the heart and with regards to Zuhd. And there's several reasons behind this. And one of the main contributors to hadith fabrication were the Zuhad, as the people of hadith mentioned. One of the main contributors to fabrication of hadith were those who were Zuhad. There's a famous term that the people of Hadith would mention about righteous worshippers, whether you call them monks. They would say, أَدْرَكَتْهُ غَفْلَةُ الصَّالِحِينَ. They say that he was righteous, he was knowledgeable, but then the ghafla, the heedlessness of the righteousness fell upon him. In other words, zuhd, 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 heart. I don't have no time to perfect my studies, to review my studies, to go over my hadith. So I have a good intention, I start narrating, I start talking, and next thing you know, qala Rasulullah, and it's not what the Rasul said. Everybody understand this? And then the shaitan comes, and then instead of me making a mistake in an error, just go ahead and say the hadith. It doesn't matter. Whether it's the statement of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whether it's from the Torah, whether it's from the Injil, it softens the what? It softens the heart. Everybody understand this? Another great alim of hadith, he says, Lam ara shay'an. Oh, he says, Lam ara ahadan. He says, I never saw a people that had more abundant lies and inaccuracies than the righteous salihin. In other words, they were so preoccupied with zuhd, with ibadah, quote unquote, with monastic lifestyle, a monk, as that they begin to teach. And then when they taught and the people sat around them, sat at their feet, and they called the lust of hadith, ash-shahwa al-khafiyya. Wow, I'm an alim. People respect me, people love me, people put me on a pedestal. This is quite easy. I don't have to study like Imam Ahmed, Ibn Ma'in, and go here and travel there. I can just put some things together, make an eloquent speech, rhyme, and then people will cry and then weep in my majlis. And then the person becomes a qas, a storyteller. This is not something that just pertains to Baghdad in the 3rd or 4th century. This is in 2016. You go on YouTube, how many people speak, give lectures, give talks, all across the dunya, and they haven't studied for an hour in their lives. Everybody understand this? And you listen to the hadiths that they quote, they start making things up, they start fabricating things, they start talking about the Sahaba, they start saying halal and haram. Everybody understand this? And they don't know anything. And this is not an exaggeration. It's not what? It's not an exaggeration. So this is a concept of misconception of Zuhd and of Raqa'iq. Everybody clear on this? Moving forward, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's a very long discussion. Weak ahadith and narrate ahadith. Moving forward is those who say that we're only going to deal with the heart. And we're only going to deal with Zuhd. We're only going to talk about the akhirah and the qabr, the qiyamah, jahannam. And if you say, this is halal, that's haram, this is the sunnah, this is bid'ah, okay, the Messenger of Allah said, he prayed like this, they say, no, this makes the people's hearts hard. Or some, they say that the alim is like a well, and the da'iyah is like a cloud. They say the alim gives water. He does. He gives people benefit. He teaches them. But you have to travel to the alim. You have to go to the alim. You have to drop the bucket into the well. You have to lift it up. It's burdensome. It's toiling. But the da'iyah is like the cloud. Country to country, city to city. He travels and he pours water upon the people. This is a true statement. In other words, they don't mean a da'iyah that has knowledge in fiqh. But it means someone who read a book or two, can talk, get up, and speak to the people. قال الإمام أحمد شافعي أبو حنيفة فلان خلاف. It hardens the people's hearts. Or as another said, حدثنا وأخبرنا ليس لهذا العصر. Hadith, Fulan, Bukhari, that's not for 2016. It's not for the 21st century. Just be a da'iyah. Just call the people, share your experiences on YouTube, on social media, on Facebook, and that's it. And that is a misconception. And you're going to fall into many major sins. At the top of them is lying on Allah. Not lying on the Messenger of Allah yet, lying on Allah first and foremost. Then lying on the Messenger of Allah, mocking the Sahaba, and the lack of ikhlas, being a fake, being a sham, putting on a cloak that you really don't deserve to wear. Everybody understand this? Moving forward, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, adam al-wasati wal-i'tidal is not having a balance, not being balanced and not being moderate. Divorce the worldly life. Avoid these things, but you still have to eat. You still have to drink. The Prophet ﷺ himself, he ate, he drank, he married, he slept, he prayed, he ate meat, he ate fresh fruit. He did things. Things were brought to him. And that's going to get into what is zuhd and what is raqa'iq. Everybody understand this? From the Kalam Ibn Qayyim. So many people, when they want to practice it, when they want to do it, they're not moderate, they're immoderate. Or when they want to avoid things, it's extreme, it's too much, it's too harsh. Moving forward, last but not least, taking certain narrations from the Salaf al-Salih, not the Sufiya, not the Shia, not the turuqiyya and this and that, from the salaf. With regards to zuhd, with regards to crying, with regards to dhikr and things like this, and not understanding them in the proper light. The proper light. The proper scope. And the first scope is, no matter how knowledgeable, how righteous this tabi'i is, he is not Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's not Muhammad alayhi sallam. He doesn't speak from revelation. He isn't exempt from mistake and from error. No matter how knowledgeable, how pious, how righteous, how brave, how generous he was someone that could say something that's right or say something which was incorrect. Or someone taking one athar and neglecting the major qawa'id of the deen, the maxims of the religion. Someone taking one narration from a tabi'i or from a sahabi and neglecting a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another major critical error that many tulab al-ilm and du'at fall into is taking an athar or two or three statements of the tabi'een and saying that's the fahm al-salaf. That's the understanding of the pious predecessors. That's ghalat. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah and others, they have stated that what's meant by the understanding of the salaf, two things. Number one is their ijma', the consensus, when they agreed on something unanimously. And number two, an-naqlu al-mashhur al-mustafid anhum, is that which is well known, reported by mass report, that not all of them did and understood, but most of them. 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Everybody understand this? And which the person says, this is the understanding of the Salaf al-Salih. As far as what Hassan al-Basri did individually, as far as what this Sahabi did individually, then you cannot say that's the understanding of all of them. Everybody understand this? And this is a critical blunder that not Sufis, not Shia, those who are attributed to ilm and hadith and salaf, they make this error, and it's wrong. Especially when it comes to Zuhd and Raqa'iq. Because when you open up those books, you're going to find the narration of this one who fasted till his tongue was black, until his tongue was green. This one, he heard this verse in the Quran and he passed out. He fell out, he died instantly in the salah. This one wouldn't eat. Imam Ahmed wouldn't allow his children to have fresh fruit. Abdullah ibn Ahmed said, I had to sneak a pomegranate into the house. I hid it in my cloak, he says. If Imam Ahmed saw us with a fresh piece of fruit, he will come down upon this. Everybody understand this? So I take Imam Ahmed's statement and I tell my children, you can't have fresh fruit. If you eat fresh fruit, then that's dunya. You're worshiping the dunya, you're falling to the pleasures of the dunya. That is incorrect. That's taking an isolated statement, an isolated example from someone who isn't Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the science of fiqh, usul al-fiqh, al-qawaid al-fiqhiyya, mustalah itself, ilm al-hadith, teach us that there are statements and actions of the Prophet ﷺ which are restricted. Some are general, some are specific, some are explicit, others are inexplicit. If that's Muhammad's words, Muhammad's actions, then what about what Imam Ahmad did, what Hassan al-Basri did, what Abdullah ibn Umar did? When he made wudu, when this companion made wudu, he put water in his eyes. Did other Sahaba do that? Does the Quran say put water in your eyes? Everybody understand this? I'm trying to make a point here, is that this is a major error when it comes to this issue of Zuhd and Raqa'iq. I'm not going to wear shoes because this tabi didn't wear shoes. I'm not going to eat any fruit because this Sahabi never ate fruit. And I say that's Zuhd and that's Raqa'iq. And that is a misconception. Everybody clear on this? So we're going to get there on what is the proper understanding of these two terminologies. Khairan inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Moving forward. قال الحافظ ابن القيم رحمه الله. Ibn al-Qayyim, he says concerning what Zuhd is and what it isn't. ومن منازل إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين منزلة الزهد كما في التهذيب. قال الله تعالى ما عندكم ينفد وما عند الله باق اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لاعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد. الآية. وقال تعالى إنما مثل الحياة الدنيا كماء أنزلناه من السماء فاختلط به نبات الأرض. الآية. وقال تعالى واضرب لهم مثل الحياة الدنيا كماء أنزلناه من السماء فاختلط به نبات الأرض. الآية. وقال تعالى قل متاع الدنيا قليل والآخرة خير لمن اتقى. الآية. وقال بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى. وقال ولا تمدن عينيك إلى ما متعنا به أزواجا منهم زهرة الحياة الدنيا. الآية. وقال تعالى إن جعلنا ما على الأرض زينة لها لنبلوهم أيهم أحسن عملا. الآيات. وقال تعالى ولولا أن يكون الناس أمة واحدة جعلنا لمن يكفر بالرحمن الآية. والقرآن مملوء من التزهيد في الدنيا والإخبار بخستها وقلتها وانقطاعها وسرعة فنائها والترغيب في الآخرة والإخبار بشرفها ودوامها. وإذا أراد الله بعبد خيرا أقام في قلبه شاهدا يعيش به حقيقة الدنيا والآخرة ويؤثر مهما هو أولى بالإيثار ويؤثر منهما ما هو أولى بالإيثار. وقد أكثر الناس من الكلام في الزهد وكل أشار إلى ذوقه ونطق عن حاله وشاهده. قال الراغب عبارات القوم عن أذواقهم وأحوالهم. قال رحمه الله قال غالب عبارات القوم عن أذواقهم وأحوالهم والكلام بلسان العلم أوسع من الكلام بلسان الذوق وأقرب إلى الحجة والبرهان. وسمعت شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية قدس الله روحه يقول الزهد ترك ما لا ينفع في الآخرة والورع ترك ما تخاف ضرره في الآخرة. وهذه العبارة من أحسن ما قيل في الزهد والورع وأجمعها. وقال سفيان الثوري الزهد في الدنيا قصر الأمل ليس بأكل الغليظ ولبس طيب. قال رحمه الله Ibn Qayyim, he says, and from the concepts and from the things that are included in the verse إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ is Al-Zuhd. Al-Zuhd. He says this pertains to Al-Zuhd. Khairan, inshallah. Let's take a 5 to 10 minute break, intermission. Maybe brothers want to use the restroom, get some water, get a snack, inshallah ta'ala. And then afterwards we'll finish with the kalam Ibn Qayyim bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Wa sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina Muhammad.
Do you think you have some outline or handouts for the teachers?
Sahih Muslim, inshallah. لما نقرأ من الصحيح, when we do the actual hadith book, we'll have them, inshallah. بإذن الله.